So I'm very pleased to introduce the first of our speakers, who is Fabio Spadini, who has done a PhD at the University of Fribourg with Professor Dasen, and called Astrological Gemstones on the Glyptic of Greco-Roman Time, and is now doing a postdoc funded by the Swiss National Science Foundation on reconstructing the sky of the ancients, genesis and development of the zodiacal language, image, which sounds absolutely fascinating. And he's going to talk today on Greek mythology and magic, the gathering card game. So please listen with interest.
Good morning. Well, first, I would like to thank the organizer for this invitation that allows me to present a topic on the reception of the Greek mythology on a contemporary card games, Magic the Gathering. So the game created by Dr. Richard Garfield in 1991 while studying for his doctorate in mathematics was an instant success. And in 1996, the MTG Pro Tour, meaning a competition where only the best players are invited, was born. And now the industry is worth over $5 billion per year. The game has more than 12,000 cards and is played by over 12 million people. In the game, each player takes on the role of a wizard who tries to defeat the opponent in a duel by casting spells, summoning monsters to do their bidding, or playing powerful artifacts. In this way, Magic encourages the use of the imagination, as there is an element of role-playing included. The player takes on the guise of a planeswalker and travel across dimensions, battling other wizards. Already at the beginning of the game, the developers propose an overall theme for each set of cards in order to make it easier for the players to immerse themselves into the game. And the first theme was the Arabian Night, published in 1993, who was a curious mix of Islam and Arabian myths and legends, where the players could control creatures such as Aladdin, as you can see here, Ali Baba, or cast spells such as Jihad, as you can see here, or Army of Allah. As I said, each word or card set in Magic has a different theme and appeals to different players. In 2013, the planet Teros, the name being, of course, a combination of god and hero, take its inspiration heavily from ancient Greek culture and mythology, mainly found in the epics of Homer, as we will see. Similar to ancient Greek mythology, the set is governed by 15 gods, 5 major gods and 10 minor gods of Nyx, who, like the Olympian gods, can take human form and live among humans. It is quite interesting to note that at the start of the design process of the Teros set, lead designer Mark Rosewater made his team study Greek mythology in order to find some inspiration for the set. So, the main goal of my presentation is to understand why the art and gameplay captivate players and how classical mythology enhance their experience. So first of all, it is important to note that in the game, the resource that allows the wizard to cast spells is called mana, and there are 5 colors of mana, each color having a central goal and a default strategy. And this is quite interesting because we will see how the developer have tried to link each color to a specific god in order to represent the main characteristic of the god. So I will go more quickly. So the green, it's linked, of course, to nature and animals. And the motto is harmony through acceptance. And normally green cards are druid, sage, mighty monster, holy wolf, auras that restore the natural order, etc. Then there is black. Of course, the main theme of black is death and sacrifice of creature, and the goal being satisfaction through ruthless. In the game, cards are normally vampires, necromancer, demons, horror, etc. Then there is the blue color, which is linked with divination and the possibility of controlling the opponent's actions by casting counterspells. And the motto is perfection through knowledge. And blue cards are wizard, fairies, monster of the deep, etc. Then there is the white color that represents the world of justice and purity. And the goal is to obtain peace through order. The white cards are normally angels, knights, clerics, loyal steed, etc. And the final one is the red color that embodies the principle of impulse, chaos, creation, and the motto is freedom through action. So, after getting a general idea of the property and power of each color, it is interesting to see which deity has been assigned to which color. In total, as I said, the set includes 5 major gods, each one for each kind of mana. So, for green, the god is Nailia, god of the hunt, and she is depicted, as you can see, as a casket woman using an arc. And of course, the model is a direct adaptation of Artemis, the goddess of nature, hunt, wilderness. Similarly to Artemis, Nailia carries a bow and golden arrows. And in the game, it exists the card named the Bow of Nailia, and is a card that provides the creator the death touch ability, meaning that they can kill any opposing creature by inflicting just 1 point of damage. And this is quite interesting because it is an adaptation since Artemis bow, as we know, will bring sudden death, like in the case of Artemis killing the children of Niobe. And we have here the famous Niobe's crater. Then the white god is Heliod, god of the sun. It serves as a re-mythologized Zeus mixed with Helios. Here, the artwork is particularly interesting because it resembles a more colorful adaptation of the Artemision bronze, which depicts Zeus or Poseidon. In this case, it seems that ancient sources had inspired the artwork of the artist. Then the red god is quite interesting. It's named Purpurus, god of the forge, and he is depicted as emerging from a volcano with a giant hammer in the left hand. It is clear that the model of this card is the god Hephaestus. In this case, the designer preferred this deity to Ares, which could logically have been chosen to represent the red color of the set. But it is precisely the meaning attributed to the red color that did not match the character of the Greek god of war. We have seen that the color red is not only linked to violence and blood, but also to inventiveness. It is precisely this led characteristic that prompted the creator to choose a god who could marry both the aspect linked in part to war and weapons and reference to creativity. The same approach is found in the case of the divinity linked to blue, that is to say, Tassa, the god of the sea, and the name, of course, derived from the Greek word Thalas. The bident that the deity carries is a clear reference to Poseidon, but why didn't the creators of the game choose Poseidon? The answer is similar to the case of Ares. Poseidon in mythology has a character that does not correspond to the strategy of the blue color. The Greek god is impulsive and impatient, unable to fit with the blue mindset. On the contrary, the lore of Tassa show that his behavior is more of a mix between Poseidon and Athena. And this combination is a bit provoking, since we know that Poseidon and Athena fought for the sea of the god protector of Athens. And the developers, however, managed to harmonically combine these two different gods. And the last one is the black god, Erebos, god of the dead, a primordial deity. And it is quite interesting to note that this is the only case where the designer decided to not going for a new name, but to keep the one that is known from ancient sources. The meaning of these words of God darkness fits well the thematic of the black mana. At this point, we can highlight two stratagems that the developers have devised in order to justify the association between the main deity and the color. So we have behavioral characteristics specific to the deity, for example, Heliod, Zeus, Helios, white, or Nilia, Artemis, green. And the development of a new deity that mixes several characteristics in order to better match it to the color, as Tassa, Poseidon, Athena, blue. So we can see that the Theros set doesn't simply copy-paste idea from ancient Greece. It just borrows themes and concepts. In the case of the main gods, it borrows certain attributes of their mythological counterparts. What is even more interesting is that sometimes the effect assigned to certain cards determine the name choose to name them and vice versa. And the name often refers to a Greek myth or Greek epic. I will present 3 examples where this is the case. I will just comment on the first one here. For example, as you can read on the card, you can see that as an additional cost to cast Rescue from the Underworld, sacrifice a creature, choose target creature card in your graveyard, and return that card and the sacrifice one to the battlefield under your control. Of course, the name of the card, Rescue from the Underworld, and the concept of how the card works is directly derived from Greek mythology. A good example is the story of Orpheus, who traveled to the underworld to bring his love Eurydice back from the dead. And of course, Curse of the Swine, that is directly linked to Circe. Now, I want now move a little bit quicker to 2 creators that are present in the set and that are linked with the Greek mythology. So the first one are the Cyclops. So the Cyclops is one example of further re-mythologizing in Magic the Gathering. We can see that the image is accompanied by a text here, a quotation from a text that bears the title, the Tyriad. This is quite interesting because it is a clear influence from the ancient Greek language and the literary sources in order to recreate them into something new and to provide a sort of textual source to testify the existence of a mythology specific to the series of cards. The different artwork we can see here follow the tradition of the Cyclopes as single-eyed raging giants, similar to their portrayal in Book 9 of Homer, the Odyssey. The color of the card, red, is linked with this monster characterized by aggression and brute force. It is interesting to note that here the designers decided to follow the Homeric image of the Cyclops and not the Hesiodic one, even if it is possible that they know the theogony of Hesiod, because, for example, in this set, it appears this card, the 100-ended one that is described in the theogony. And in Hesiod, the Cyclops are not violent, they are craftsmen and they supply Zeus with thunderbolts, which enable him to defeat the Titans. And in Magic the Gathering, the model of the Cyclopes is more influenced from Book 9 of the Odyssey, and they are all based upon the characters of Polyphemus, as you can see here, where he's eating some sheep. So I will move on to the second example that concerns a creature that does not appear as such in Greek mythology, but that is assumed to be part of it based off its apparition in the cinema. This creature is the Kraken, and the link between the Kraken, that as we know is typical monster of the Nordic mythology, and the Mediterranean is the film Clash of Titans, where for the first time the monster appears in a Greek setting. The movie is based on the myth of Perseus and Andromeda, hence the presence of the sea monster. In the set, we find the card, the Shipwreck Kraken. It represents a gigantic crab-like monster with claw as a long serpent-like body. Its inclusion in the Greek-based set, even if this creature is linked with the Nordic culture, responds to the client demand. Before the release of the set in 2013, Mark Rosewater explained the presence of such a creature, and his response is quite clear. Kraken are actually Norwegian, but you see, there was this movie called Clash of the Titans, is speaking about the remake, featuring the famous line, release the Kraken, and well, a Kraken. We have to deliver not on what a source of inspiration actually is, but rather on what player think it is. Perception is more important than reality. So I will skip the part of the Greek language and I move on to my conclusion. So why did the developers decide to choose Greek mythology as a source of inspiration for their card set, and does this have an educational use? It seems to me that cards appear to be created by a business that know the appeal of re-mythologized childhood myths and legends to their customer base, and then portray it in attractive artwork, capturing the attention and imagination of the player and make it more relatable. The reason for playing with such card can be found in the fact that the appealing artwork, the recycled myth, and the contact with similar fantasy fiction during the childhood of the player can give him a reason for playing with such card as a reminder for the pastime. Classical mythology can thus attract consumers who have a nostalgic fondness towards particular themes, in this case, the ancient Greek world, while in the meantime, creating unique new myths for its followers. We have seen that on some cards appeared the citation of a book named Iliad. In some ways, they are trying to create a new epic as the Iliad or the Odyssey to explain the existence of certain creatures or heroes in the mythology which they have just invented. This remythologizing of familiar topics is used in order to engage the consumer. In doing so, Magic the Gathering is not only creating something unique that will attract those with knowledge of the previous inspiration, the Greek mythology, but will help to attract brand new players that have an interest in the topic. This seems to be the market strategy of Magic the Gathering. They try to replicate different sources in order to attract more and more people. For example, one of the last set is based on ancient Egypt and it's called Amonkhet. Alongside this logic based on the law of the market, can these cards have a kind of educational or pedagogical use? Of course, they have the merits of arousing in player the memory of the knowledge they learned at school, or through film or series like Clash of Titans or Hercules, especially if they followed a course in classics. The presence of the Trojan horse, the Cyclops, the god of the forge, can act from the mnemonic point of view and activate knowledge buried in the brain and even push the individual to take back in hand the myths and the epic of the Greek. For the uninitiated, the educational aim is minimal. This card game is not like the mid-17th century educational card game, typical of the aristocratic circles, where children could learn geography, blazon, etc., through a ludic activity. However, if we remove the card from its game milieu, it can be used as a teaching tool. For example, by covering the name of the card Pixies of Pandemonium, there will be the possibility of creating a kind of memory game where the participant could get to identify the myth of Pandora in a more ludic way. It can thus help the memorization process of Greek mythology and epic. In addition, the combination of images and text could provide a general view of the field of Greek mythology and push the player to study more in depth, even if this is not the main goal of the card game. Thank you for your attention.